The second. The second figure approached the traveller. He too was robed in white, with white hair and beard. He stood taller than the first. His body evidenced a more graceful strength. His face was firm, calm and attentive. He bowed his head and then spoke. I was the first to take the torch from your father's son. After me came those others you see, each with their purpose foreseen by your father. My world was the embodiment of a dream of balanced learning, a dream of a world ruled by the good and the just, protected from the forces of destruction. The dream itself was no more than an acorn, the means by which to grow a young tree of thought. I was to tend that tree to seed. This was to be, I thought, the beginning of a great forest within man, a forest of intellectual endeavor grounded in the mystical comprehension of the emanation of life. For the tree to grow, I knew it required space, so I learned to communicate. I founded a school from which the forest of thought would grow. I had the means not only to attract but to influence the influential, and I was successful to some extent. My standing was such that my thought was not ignored, even if it too was little understood. I sought to guide, to help my students identify and instill the repercussions of my teacher's wisdom, so that they could instill them in the world. In my teachings, I immortalized a simple framework of objectivity. Unlike my teacher, I wrote. I saw speech as too quickly filtered, too easily later distorted. But being true to my teacher, I recognized that spoken words are easier, more dear to man than those that are written. So I sought a common ground. I modeled my writing for ease, crafted plays in which my words, protected as transcribed, mirrored spoken discourse. That is how I husbanded the sapling of my teacher's seed. I tended its soil, ruled its growth, protected it from harm. As time passed, the sapling grew into a young tree, strong and beautiful. New seeds sprung, and carefully I chose which to grow. By my choices, a light glade formed within the darker forest of man. Not all of the new stemmed from the king oak that grew from that acorn. Birds and animals brought seeds from which others grew. One of those, carried in the beak of a swan, dropped in rich soil nearby, brought forth a queen ash with roots and branches spread far and wide. More trees grew, and the glade became the heart of a fair wood in a dark forest. In that wood, beneath a canopy of lightest green, the sunlight dappled the ground. The wood was open, allowing fresh breezes of thought, contemplation of the clear streams that flowed from the wood springs. Some of the trees grew massive over time, but never more than the great vibrant lords beneath the watchful gaze of the king oak and the queen ash. However, despite the beauty of those fair trees, the stifling darkness of the outer forest encroached. There was little light that passed through to the ground, no paths for fresh air amidst those branches, no flow in the water trapped in swamps and stagnancy. I fought the reaching dark of that forest with all my resources, all my strength and wisdom, and darkness would have won, would have suffocated with coarse, fleeting growth, so to prevent the glade from spreading, from breathing life into the world, life embodying justice and beauty, lightness rather than darkness. I believed the glade's beauty would be its strength, righteousness its defense. I thought that it, once a wood, would no longer need tending, would grow on its own, but I discovered I was wrong. When the wood's tenders were weak, the forest encroached in waves, and though never successful at extinguishing the life I planted, it has sometimes come close. Ambition is the forest, jealous of all that would otherwise be. It embodies an appetite that feeds on life, on the richest of life, and nothing ever on earth was richer in life than that wood we had planted. It was for that the forest ever grasped. It was in those times of greatest threat to its life the wood fell to dormancy. It generated no leaves, would stand in defense as if in winter, until again sparked to life, underbrush burned, dark branches cut away. This has been the job of the tender, to plant a new tree, to govern and protect the growth, to cut back the outer forest. That is how the wood remains, a remainder of what must never be forgotten. Each tree standing in that grove is the spirit of the tender that planted it, and each tree has given its seeds. The fair wood remains protected only by its beauty, and by the fearful vengeance it threatens by those that would seek its undoing. But now a new force rises to destroy it entirely, and no longer can the spirits of trees, we tenders, protect it. The new force will repel our strength with heartless pride, with cruel destruction. So now it is your turn. The wood awaits you, that it may stretch its limbs unhindered. The traveller nodded and then spoke. I shall be the rejuvenator of the wood you founded, but we are far from the desire of your dream. You looked to the sky and saw that all stemmed from one, that to know all is to become one. Others since have looked to the infinities of matter and have, misguided thus, lost their view of the sky. Matter shifts and changes over time, hence man, looking to matter eternally, will never by that know all. You veiled the torch you carried behind knowledge and compromise. Because of this choice you made, the wood your followers created is different from the glade you grew. This was to be expected, but now the reaches of the wood are too far astray from their heart. Your dream remains but an idea that sheds influence through the safe cushions of the wood to the forest of man beyond. That cushion has allowed man to leave alone the most fundamental truths of your comprehension. It is because of this that the world is much as you left it. Even many that claim to carry the influence of your thought are overrun by the compulsions of ignorance that you fought. And now the danger rises, for the power of the unwise has grown. There is the power of those whose reason is employed to ends other than the pursuit of wisdom. There is the power of those whose reason is discarded, allowing unharnessed emotion to rule their action. And there is the power of those who lack the inherent determinant strength to employ reason at all. While the first two vie for power, exploiting the third to their ends, all are jealous. Now is the time to realize your dream, for the glade to become the forest. This time it shall be the glade that shall reach, to take all that it may grasp, to destroy all that would hinder. Hence the world of man shall be reformed, and the earth rejuvenated. My father has now himself once again planted seeds, but now they are seeds for war. More potent than those that came before, these seeds shall envelop the wood, shall rid it of its bane. The man, his head low before the traveller, spoke. I taught first for the ideal, but as I became an old man, I realized the futility of that. It was too far from man's eyes, too far from his capabilities. So I stepped back and taught for something less, something to carry man forwards, the compromise of which you speak. My compromise was added to by those who came after, compromise built upon compromise, until the words became almost meaningless. I had always written so that my words could not be contaminated by fault-ridden memory, but it did not matter, as the essence had been discarded. It is not that the words had no influence. I can see that they have had much, but despite all, they have affected little, for in those places where my name is most known, my words are least heeded. The man turned, walked away from the traveller. He took his place in the ark, and then the man to his left stepped forward and approached.